Excuse me, do you know the Pardes Wi-Fi thingy?
I don't. Let me go check.
It wasn't Elisheva, was it?
That was Elisheva.
She changed her clothes in the past 5 minutes.
She did. I know. It's incredible.
No, there she is. I mean, I just, okay. I saw her downstairs.
Yes. And now it's forever on the internet. Your conversation about the Wi-Fi. No, it's okay. It's good.
Jerusalem, all one word, all lowercase. Oh yeah.
Test.
Good, I saw you having really cool pink thingy.
I don't know what you just said at all.
I saw something really cool pink on your phone.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, Facebook Messenger, you can change the colors.
Can I ask you a quick question? Did you already start the live streaming?
Yes.
Because my sister can't seem to figure out how to connect to it.
So I had it started, but it was on so early, I thought it was strange, so I just restarted it 3 minutes ago.
Okay.
So it was on for like 20 minutes, and I thought that would be strange. But it's on right now, so everybody should be able to hear our conversation right there.
Well, that's good. Hannah, can you hear me?
I checked it on the computer, I've checked it on my phone.
Do you know what the link is?
Yeah.
Could you WhatsApp it to me?
Yes. Yes, you can literally hear our conversation right now.
Oh, that's nice.
It should also be on the Fridays on YouTube and everything. I sent it to you. Dan, for the video, I mean, it's pretty much the screen and very little on either side. So if both of you want to stay kind
We're
of,
not doing a video.
I mean, in front of, no, this video.
Oh, yeah.
This video, it only looks how far it expands. So if you walk beyond, you're not going to be visible, which is fine. They'll be able to hear you.
That's so weird. I can't see that anymore. So I'm going to go to this, and then we're going right to the 9 website, to the Break the Echo Chamber image. Do you have that open? And then from there, we're going to go to, and then from there, we're going to go to, just to quickly show the list of events as well. And then from there, we go to my source sheet, and then from there, we go to his PowerPoint. Which would be that PowerPoint.
Great. I've got it.
And were you able to find that live stream?
I sent it to you.
On WhatsApp?
You don't see my
Oh
WhatsApp?
yeah. No, you're right.
I just thought it was nicer to have this up before walking.
Yes, of course. To get. What? יש לי טריגר, האמת היא שיש לי טריגר, אבל אתה רוצה לעשות את זה או שהיא תעשה את זה? You know what, maybe I'll go get a clicker quickly.
I have.
לי יש גם, כן? אתה רוצה להכניס? In which case you'll click it at time. You don't have to worry about it.
Hi.
How are you?
Okay.
For the PowerPoint?
Yeah.
That's the
Oh, great. Hi, Hannah.
Thank you. We're also going to show 2 websites, so you'll see when it's up again.
After Daniel's gonna speak.
Where would you like
Oh, 2 over here.
There we go. You're right at the front.
We're going to be like the teacher's pets. My grandfather, my mum's side, had hair till he was 93.
Wow.
I'm hoping one that I lived at.
You're a rare breed, my friend. My wife actually prefers me. She might not have married me with the hair, actually. If I had hair, yeah. She likes balls, man. She likes balls. That's the law.
Let's use one of these microphones.
They both work.
Very
everyone to the now third annual Nine Adar Project Week of Constructive Conflict event at Pardes in honor of my father, Larry Roth. My name is Daniel Roth. I direct the Pardes Center for Judaism and Conflict Resolution. I'm one of the founders, co-founder of the Nine Adar Project, which in Israel is known as דיבור חדש ששבוע לקידום מחלוקת עונה. In North America, roughly 100 synagogues, 40 campuses, tens of schools have signed up to participate this week in learning about constructive conflict and communication and doing activities to strengthen their cultures of how people disagree. It's needless to say that in North America, people have felt a special need with the current climate of discourse taking place to think about what they can do to try to strengthen their culture of how people are listening and people are disagreeing and learning from one another. Just to give you a glimpse of one of the initiatives that we started, Allison, if you could just flip to that, to try to work with the political tensions taking place in North America. As you might have noticed in the hallways, we started a campaign called Break the Echo Chamber. Read contradictory news. We do this all the time in this Beit Midrash. We don't just read Rashi. We don't just read Rashbam. We read them both, and we try to understand how both could be true while they're holding totally different interpretations. If we can do that with our text, do that in Chavrita, can we also do that in how we learn and study the texts that form our interpretation of realities through the news? So I encourage you to try also to challenge yourselves to read contradictory news and to break our echo chambers of what we believe to be the singular truth. In Israel, there are right now taking place different events around the city, around the country. There's a large event taking place in the Cinematheque in Jerusalem, a large event taking place in Cinematheque in Tel Aviv. I believe there's over 100 events taking place in 30 cities around the country. Last night, I had the wonderful opportunity to be at a special event with the Tantur Institute, not far away from here, where we had 200 Muslims, Jews, and Christians come together and study texts on constructive conflict, learn about machloket l'shem shamayim in Judaism, and adab al-ikhtilaf, the ethics of disagreement in Islam. Each one coming from different places and thinking about what can we learn from our cultures, from our religions, about how we can disagree and how we can learn from one another. So tonight's event, and I'll mention that our activities in Israel are not only through Pardes, they're with our special partner just across the street, Mosaica, the Center for Conflict Resolution through Agreement, which has the 37 mediation and dialogue centers around the country. So tonight's event we're calling Rules of Engagement, Negotiating with Children, Colleagues, and Hostage Takers. It's up to you to figure out which is the most difficult. So we're going to split our evening. We're going to split our evening into two parts. The first part, we're going to do a little bit of text study, okay, which is what we do in this Beit Midrash. And the second part, we're going to have an amazing opportunity to experience and learn some of the practice, the art of how to engage in difficult negotiations. And I'll say more about our very, very special guest, Michael Tsur, after we finish our text. So tonight's event are, as I mentioned, they're in memory of my father, Larry Roth, as we come close to 6 years marking his tragic and sudden death. My father was a businessman and I believe a master negotiator. But he wasn't a master negotiator, as some might say, the art of the deal, but I would say he was a master negotiator of the art of the mensch. Because he knew how to build relationships to protect his interests, but also really take into account the interests and the needs of the side that he was negotiating with. My father was also someone who deeply believed in the significance of giving constructive feedback, and I believe he would say to me numerous times, a good friend is someone who tells you when you're wrong, or in his language, tells you when your zipper's down. So he deeply believed in negotiating. He deeply believed in what we're going to be learning a little bit about of constructive feedback. And I think he would have really enjoyed tonight's evening, because he always used to push me from the first time I started learning Gemara and Yeshiva. He always used to say to me, Daniel, can you make it relevant? Can you keep it practical? What are we doing here with all these texts? So I think that this evening, which is a total combination of some text study and some practice, would have been something that he would have enjoyed. So I knew that for this evening, I wanted to have Michael Tsur, who again I'm going to speak a little bit more about soon. And I asked Michael, what do you want to speak about? And he said, rules of engagement. We can go back to, I forgot to show the slide of where you can see the 100 different events taking place throughout the country. Just in case if you had, which was about, 50 different organizations working together. Rules of engagement, negotiating with children, colleagues, and hostage takers. And I said, what text study do I do for this? Like, what texts speak about negotiation with children and colleagues and hostage takers? That was a slight challenge to me. So I decided to go with tochacha, of course. Okay? Because it's not the first thing that comes to mind when you think of the word tocha. I'll ask you, when I say the word tochacha, first word that pops into your mind. Image. This is not a rhetorical question. Yeah? Criticism. What else?
Holocaust.
Pardon?
Holocaust.
Holocaust.
The tochacha. It was destruction.
Ah, okay. Whoa. Okay, good. Good. I'm glad it went in that direction. Others. Rebuke. What else? Okay. Love your neighbors or something. The image, of tocha. What would that have to do with negotiation? So, I want to claim that tocha, even though we would translate it still as reproof, rebuke, I want to claim that it is the art of engaging in constructive, difficult conversations. And that if you're just yelling at somebody, you are not fulfilling the mitzvah of tocha. So, over a brief few moments, we're going to learn a little bit about tocha, and then we're going to see how does this connect into the art of negotiating. Okay. So the verse that is the primary verse of the mitzvah of tocha is in Leviticus, in the book of Vayikra, where it says, "Lo tisna et achicha b'levavecha, hocheach tochiach et amitecha, v'lo tisa alav chet." What's unclear about this verse? What questions do we need to ask? Pardon?
What does it mean?
What does what mean?
What do you actually do?
What do you do? Okay. What else? What else is unclear?
What sin are you? Like, what is the sin you may or may not be incurring because of them?
Right. What sin, or the word chet? What's the concern here? I get the first part. Lo tisna et achicha b'levavecha. Don't hate someone in your heart. Rather, what should you do when you're really, really upset?
Love.
Okay, what is that? You should do tochacha. You should bring it up, discuss it, say something. But then, the final verse, the final part of the verse says, "Lo tisa alav chet." Don't incur guilt or sin because of it. So, what's the concern that might happen? And what is our goal in trying to engage in this conversation of tocha? So instead of me lecturing to you, we're going to negotiate this in chavruta, okay? Because that's what we do in this Beit Midrash. And as you will be hearing soon, Michael's program for training people to become negotiation professionals in times of crisis is called Shakla V'Tarya. What's Shakla V'Tarya? It's what we do every time we sit down and have chavruta. It's giving and taking. It's what we do when we learn Gemara. And it's what we do when you negotiate. So it's appropriate that we'll negotiate 3 texts, okay? We'll give 7-8 minutes to do this with the person sitting next to you. And I brought 3 different interpretations that are all relating to the same question of what is your goal? Why are you engaging in the Tocha conversation? What is the outcome that you are hoping to achieve? So please pay attention. I brought you 6 texts, but I'm only asking you to do 3. The one with the asterisk, okay? There's a Ramban, an Ibn Ezra, and a Rashbam. And then we'll come back in 7-8 minutes. I'll hear what you, how you understood it. We'll negotiate it. And we'll understand what are some of the rules of engagement for doing Tocha. Okay? So we'll give 7 minutes for a bit of covered discussion. Turn to the person next to you.
I'm also leaving early.
Around this time is perfect. Just tonight I'm at a lecture. Actually, in fact, where it was that I saw it most profoundly, it was some kind of version of Hebrew wording, whatever, that uses that when you're talking, when you're wording something versus arguing something. I find that interesting. So unless you have substantial support for what you're saying, then it goes against the concept. It's not just shoot off your mouth and talk about emotions and things like that. But you just bring valid proof in some sense. And when you offer, it's something that is I guess tangible and visible enough to the other side that you can see it. That ultimately you're trying to. Alright, so we got the first one. Let it go for the most part. But, and now I'll tell you about it at some point. Whenever I kind of got into, here, like shortly after close to whenever I found proper help on Buddhism, philosophy, But and it deals a lot with that. And one of the things I was talking about is exactly this kind of thing, because you live in a social world, and if anything you'd like to achieve is promoting peace and harmony and whatnot, the person who did that to you will most likely do that to somebody else. And if you ever learn from your behaviors that bad thing, that's just in terms of the social effect that it has on the rest of the world. In addition, that person everybody is working on their own issue. Everybody wants to be pure in a certain sense. They never hurt anybody. If they ever did something that actually did hurt somebody, they would want to know about it in order that they could take responsibility for it. Right. So you're basically giving, like, a lot of times we only terms of ourselves, because we live in this world with other people, giving them opportunities to work on themselves and better themselves, but it also works on the assumption that what you did was wrong.
And then to you,
Yeah.
He did it wrong to you. Like you said,
And that's what makes it even more complicated. Because you don't know. A lot of times your ego can get in the way, and you feel slighted on something. But when he did X, you just know that he did X. It was your interpretation of X that caused you to react the way you should react, and caused you to be hurt. It's not an objective fact that necessarily hurt you, but it didn't have to do with it. Move on. Oh, I see. הוכיח תוכיח שבע מחשבתו לפני דבר ולא היה זה טעם ולא ניסה לה. This sort of touches upon what I was talking about. כן. עונש יהיה לך בעבורו. Because a lot of times privilege comes down to a lack of communication or simply a misinterpretation. That through communication you can correct that misinterpretation and everything will be fine. That's one of the biggest things that here is not so much for him to check in and make sure he knows whatever, but more for you in order to correct your misinterpretations. Why should you suspect he never meant it that way or whatever? It was just a mistake.
if we don't even know the background, it's just
It was untrue.
it's untrue.
Yeah.
You don't know what another's it's very clear. He's done something to you. He said an answer. He's done something right. When you look at it and you think it objectively is wrong,
Okay.
Still in your exterior, but that's not
Hopefully you've had a chance.
you might realize you have incorrect.
So hopefully everyone's had a chance to get a little bit of a taste.
Resolve that because more often than not,
I'll let you finish up your conversation for a moment. Okay. So the key question of the verse, as we said, was what does it mean lo tisa lachet? What does it mean don't incur sin because of the other person? How do we even translate that? What's sin? What other person? So, and ultimately the question is what's the outcome? What are we actually trying to achieve when we start this difficult tochacha conversation? So you saw I brought three different, not necessarily contradictory, but different interpretations as to how to answer that question. So let's take a look at the Rashbam. I'm sorry, at the Ramban. Let's start with the Ramban. The Ramban writes, and the verse said, you shall not hate your kinsfolk in your heart when they do something to you against your will, rather rebuke them and ask them, why do you do this to me? Right? First of all, we already learned something. How do you start off a tocha conversation? Start off with a question. Now they didn't exactly in those days have like I statements and you statements yet. Okay, they could use a little bit of improvement, but there still is an element of curiosity. And then the Ramban, yeah.
But he's also done. It's clear in this text that he's done something wrong to him. In other words, he's been actually hurt by.
That the person who is giving the rebuke, has been hurt.
Yeah.
That it's happening to me. This is about interpersonal tocha. This isn't about, yelling at somebody who's not keeping, Shabbos or something. And do not incur guilt because of them, to cover up the hatred for the other person in your heart, and not to tell them, because in your rebuking them they will apologize to you or repent and admit the sin and be atoned. What's the desired outcome that the Ramban is saying you've got to be aiming for? And who's going to repent? That they're going to repent, that they're going to ultimately, what will they have come out of the conversation? Feeling sorry, changing. They've learned something. If you just yell at somebody and they didn't understand or hear or internalize anything you just said, we haven't done the mitzvah of tocha. Tocha means that we're actually able to communicate it in a way that the other side is able to learn something, hear it, and maybe even change their behavior. To actually be willing to say, wow, I'm so sorry. That means that we haven't been able to communicate in a very sensitive way, that we're really speaking to the person, that they're able to hear it and be able to understand it. So we see that the Ramban is advocating for a learning conversation, but from the Ramban, it's a one-direction learning conversation, that they are going to learn
That they're
from
wrong.
us.
Right, that they're the one that are wrong.
Correct. That they were wrong. We shared that, they learn it, and they improve on their behavior. And the Ramban doesn't mention the purpose of the idea of forgiveness, but there's a similar idea in what? And he will be atoned. Okay, right? But it's even more explicit in Maimonides, in the next source, which I don't believe people had a chance to read. Maimonides in Hilchot Teot has several halachot where he goes very much into the details of how you actually do this. And it's a great exercise to kind of line those up and say, what are all the different components of how you engage in this, comparing it to some contemporary models of how to do difficult conversations. But he's got a lot of wisdom on it. I want to just focus in on one, but beforehand we have a question?
Yeah, I think it's important to recognize whether or not these commentators were implying certain specific audiences. And what I mean by that is, during this time, it wasn't that it was their friends, like Rambam's friends that he would speak to, were people who were also studying Torah all the time and doing Machovetim all the time. And so therefore, I think in this conversation that he's creating, he's talking about how people should talk to each other when there's a manchicha involved or like friends are involved. And I wouldn't necessarily recommend this for friends who are the same age and the same level.
Okay, so that's a great question, because and I think we'll come back to that at the end. When do we apply this wisdom? That's always going to be the question.
When the female person did his against your will, it seems like.
Right, it did something that offended you. So when would we apply this mechanism, these tools of this mitzvah of tocha? When might we not apply it? So we're not going to be able to get into all of I didn't bring the text on that particular question, but I will tell you that Maimonides in Hilchot Teot has a whole thing about when maybe you should not engage in tocha. That there are instances where better to be quiet, forgive the person in your heart, maybe another time we'll come back to that conversation. So Maimonides encourages, similar to the Ramban, where he says if you're really, really upset, somebody did something wrong, don't hold it inside. What happened with Amnon and Absalom, where Absalom didn't say anything, he was quiet in that tragic story, and then it all blows up and ends up being incredibly violent. He says rather, and I'm skipping to the middle of the Rambam, he is commanded to make the matter known and ask him, why did you do this to me? Why did you wrong me regarding that matter? Again, we see you start the rebuke conversation, the Tocham conversation, with question. You shall surely reprove your colleague if afterwards the person who committed the wrong asks their colleague to forgive them. You must do so. A person should not be cruel when forgiving. Very similar to the Ramban. The desired outcome is that they're going to learn, change their behavior, and maybe ask you for forgiveness. When they ask you for forgiveness, you should forgive them. But a different direction we find with the Ibn Ezra. Okay? The Ibn Ezra, commenting on the same verse, says, perhaps you will suspect the other person of a matter, and it is not so. And this is the reason, do not incur guilt because of them, because you will be punished as a result of what you do or think of the other person. What's the concern? If the sin, right, that you don't want to happen of the Ramban was that what's the sin that we're concerned about in the Ramban's interpretation? That the person might continue doing that wrong, meaning they did something bad to me. It really is upsetting me. I better talk about it so I don't keep it inside, and then they'll ask forgiveness. So I won't have the sin of continuing. They won't have it, right? I won't be able to. But the Ibn Ezra changes it. What's the fear that the concern if I don't bring it up?
It might not be true. You might have taken it inside.
I don't have the full picture. I actually was so angry with them. I couldn't believe they did that. And then I asked them, why'd you do that? And then guess what? They didn't do it. I misinterpreted the situation. That's tocha. So tocha in this interpretation, it's not just asking a question. Why'd you do that? No, it's really actually listening to learn. Because it means I walk into this difficult conversation knowing I might not have all the facts. I might be missing certain critical information. And my fear is that I might continue to suspect them of a wrongdoing that they never ever did.
Is the assumption that the other person's going to
It could be. But the number one concern, which is fascinating, that the Ibn Ezra is pointing out, is my concern is that you might think you have the full story, have a little bit more humility and curiosity. If you notice as you walk in our 5 steps of how to, our social media campaign of constructive communication, one of them is have a little bit of self-awareness. Boy, do I know the whole thing? Am I curious about maybe there's another side of the story? And it's amazing the Ibn Ezra is advocating in a tocha conversation saying start by listening. In more contemporary halachic literature, I brought for you in footnote number 1, Rav Tzvi Weinberg, in his book, Hilchot Ben Adam L'Chavero, the halachas of how you get along with people. He writes, based upon the wording of the Rishonim, the early authorities who discuss tocha, it is logical that the mitzvah is fulfilled by the reprover listening, not only talking. I'm in footnote 1. Therefore, the reprover has to be prepared to listen to the response of his friend, and if he's only coming to talk, he's not prepared to listen and accept his friend's response, he does not fulfill the mitzvah. If you think you're just coming in to yell at the other person and tell them what, get it off your chest, you're not doing tocha. Tocha starts with, I might not have the full story, I need to be open to listening, so I need to learn. Not they need to learn. A similar thing you can find in the Bechor Shor, Fran's 12th century, source 3b, where he says, shall not hate your kinsfolk in your heart. If your kinsfolk does something that upsets you, don't hate them in your heart. Rather, you should reprove them and say, why do you do this to me? Since it's possible that they never intended what you had thought. Or they couldn't help themselves, or they gave you some other explanation. And through this, by the fulfilling the mitzvah of tocha, you will come to realize that they never did something improper to you. And therefore, you shall not incur guilt or sin because of them for having baseless hatred towards them. Sinat chinam, I hated them for saying they never did anything to me. But you didn't know it because you never asked. You never really became curious to understand their side of the story. So, the Ibn Ezra and the Ramban don't contradict each other. Right? They're really advocating, if you combine the two, it means that a tocha conversation is a learning conversation. I walk in saying, I don't necessarily know everything. I'm pretty upset. I think I know the story, but I don't know everything. I better learn, I better listen, I better ask. And I'm going to communicate in a way that the other side might be able to walk away learning something from this conversation. And that brings us to the third interpretation. The Rashbam, grandson of Rashi, says, you shall not hate your kinsfolk in your heart. Do not hate them in your heart, rather rebuke them on what they did, and from this there will be peace. Mitoch kach yesh shalom. Meaning, what's the goal of having this difficult conversation? It's not to just get it off my chest or yell at them, give them a piece of my mind. but it's actually, I'm trying to improve the relationship. How do you do that? Really, really hard. When you have a difficult situation, we're always going to be posed with the dilemma, do I be quiet and then risk hating someone in your heart? Or do you put it out there, and if you blow up the situation, you blow it up? Neither of them are great options. The wisdom of conflict resolution in difficult conversations, one of the great books of the Harvard Negotiation Project, which I also threw out, Michael Tsur brought to Israel and translated into Hebrew, so Israelis can learn this, is how do you do something in the middle? You're not being quiet and you're not blowing it up. That it actually can bring about healthier relationships. Yeah?
I think it's really interesting that Hashem is implying that we're supposed to distinguish between a person's existence and their actions, because there's so much that we are told as we grow up that like our actions define who we are. So that's the first thing. And the second thing is like all of this is kind of like that we're having a conversation with someone and we disagree. It's based off of our perception of what the ultimate truth is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very surprised that none of the commentators are looking back and taking the approach of whether or not we have the right to think that we have ultimate truth.
Well, I think that the last two that we saw, the Ibn Ezra and before Shor, are saying you don't have ultimate truth. That you don't know the full story. You got to be curious and then hear their side. You have your story, but they have their story.
But then, does that mean both of them have truth,
Well,
or
it
that's
means
the combination of the two?
it's going to be the combination of those two that are going to lead to a healthier peace between them. I want to bring one last source that I really think my father would have loved. And this is a little bit earlier, from Bereshit Rabbah, 6th century, where Rabbi Yossi or Rabbi Hanina said, reproof leads to love. Tocha mevia lidei ahava. As it says, reprove a wise person and he will love you. Such indeed is Rabbi Yossi bar Hanina's view, for he said, love unaccompanied by reproof is not love. Tocha ahava she'eni ma tocha eina ahava. Love without reproof, without tocha, is not real love. And then Reish Lakish, his chavruta, comes along and says, reproof leads to peace. Hence, such is his view, for he said, peace unaccompanied by reproof is not peace. Shalom she'eni mo tochacha eino shalom. If you think that having a relationship that's loving and peaceful, interpersonal, or between groups, where they never have difficult conversations, is real love and real peace, you're wrong. Says the Midrash, you have to be able to engage in tocha, because that's the only way to be able to have deep, loving, and peaceful relationships. But it isn't so simple. So I want to glean from some of the texts we just saw to point out a few rules of engagement for tocha. Okay, there's plenty of halachot, but even from these, I think we can come up with a few. Number one, it starts with asking questions. Okay, all of the sources talk about starting with asking questions. I recommend with I statements, not you statements. But still, asking questions, you don't have the full picture, Ibn Ezra. Then, am I able to communicate what I have to say in a way that the other side is actually going to listen, learn, and maybe even change their behavior? Ask forgiveness. And then third, if we can pull all this together, then we can actually perhaps have the intent of strengthening our relationship instead of damaging it and destroying it, but actually deepening it and growing together from this. So all of this is really easy to say in text and in theory. It's so much more difficult to actually do in practice, okay? I was saying the rule number one is what we call in difficult conversations, start by knowing your story, okay? And then become curious of their story. So what do I not know? What are my assumptions is rule number one. Become curious, ask questions, get to know, I should say, I want to get to know their story, right? And then I'm going to be able to share my story in a way that they can hear it, that they're not going to reject it. And only if I'm able to hear what they have to say first are they going to be curious about mine. And then if we pull that off and have the intent of actually not trying to damage the relationship, but actually trying to strengthen it, then it can actually bring, according to the text, our experience of deeper love and deeper peace. So, as I said, it's nice to learn about this. It's nice to theorize about it, but actually trying to practice this is a totally different story. So I want to transition from talking text and theory to practice, and I want to emphasize this is such an incredible honor for me to have in our Beit Midrash Michael Tsur. It's a dream come true for me. Michael was my first mediation teacher, I think some 13 years ago. And when I took that mediation course, it literally didn't only change the way I look at life with learning from Michael, but it changed the entire way I read text. From that moment on, I couldn't read Chumash the same way. I couldn't read Gemara the same way. And it was really in conversations with Michael many years ago where I said, I really want to try to find some way of pursuing my passion for conflict resolution and for text. And Michael said, well, why can't you put them all together, maybe do it at Pardes? And years later, that actually came true, so I owe him so much of thanks for his wisdom. Michael, as I mentioned, is the founder and director of a very special institute called Shakla Vitaria, which trains top people in the business world and leaders to become negotiation professionals. And especially, Michael specializes in negotiating in crisis situations. And a crisis situation could be a hostage situation, or when your 3-year-old doesn't want to get out of the house. Okay? Those are crisis situations that then you bring in Michael into your house. Michael has trained, mamash, some of the top business people, not only in this country, but around the world. NYPD, Scotland Yard, Sahel, constantly working and training top people in the IDF and how to negotiate. I don't want to, he's in the room, so I have to be careful about, saying too much praise in front of somebody. But nobody does the stuff that Michael does. And nobody does it the way he does it. But beyond all of the professional stuff, I don't know of a greater mensch than Michael. That's why my father would have loved him. Because Michal's negotiation is not the art of the deal, it's the art of the mensch. And I am very excited to now invite Michal to share some of his wisdom and to get a little bit of a taste of what it means to really become a negotiation specialist. So, toda rabba.
Hi. One thing, do we need this? Yeah, we do? Okay. Your turn. So, one thing that you learn through negotiation is you shouldn't believe everything you hear. So, I do thank you for your kind words, but let's see what we can learn here together today and what I can share with you, and then you'll be the judge of how effective or if you're going to even choose to try that. I told Rabbi Daniel that every time it reminds me that how he finds a way to remember his father. It's for me it's a big thing. Actually, we just found out that our father had passed away in a difference of 1 week. So it's in a way, so it's also a Memorial Day for my father. If I may, we can collaborate on that. Thank you for that. He would also love that very much. And also the Tochacha thing. So let's see if we have negotiating in a challenging reality. We're going to try to talk about rules of engagement, what it is to engage. But in order for us to better understand, and as Daniel had mentioned, that it's going to be very practical because negotiation doesn't have any theories. There are not no theories in negotiation. You can't say, well, theoretically speaking, he would have signed the agreement, right? Either signed it or didn't sign it, right? Or theoretically speaking, she would have married me, right? Well, if there was way more light in the room and some So that it's either it's there or not. So it's all methods. It's all about methods. What would be the right methods? And also, I do not like so much the word tools, because tools are more technical, and we're talking about human beings, and you don't take a screwdriver or a hammer. It takes something which is more like what we call soft skills. Once you dealing with different kind of, especially engaging in under stress situations, and there are many of them. So I would ask you to start with a small exercise, if it's okay. I hope you will be willing to collaborate. So would you please pair up, create, partner with the person sitting next to you. Okay, so with like some eye contact. And in those pairs, the request is as follows. One of the partners, is kindly requested to close his or her fist as hard or as stiff as he or she can. Okay? The partner has 10 seconds, only when I start counting, so please wait with that. Only when I start counting. Daniel, is it okay if I'll stand on one of the chairs just for a few seconds? Can I stand on one of the chairs? Or you have a plastic one?
People stand on the chairs all the time.
That's like a safe chair over there.
And they don't care.
The ones that are-
Oh dear.
It's fine. So just, okay. So one is I'm kindly requested to close his or her fist. The partner has 10 seconds only when I start counting to open the fist. Is this clear? Okay? Should I repeat what I'm asking you? One of the partners, or you paired up, is asked to close his or her fist. The partner, the other partner, has 10 seconds only when I start counting to open the fist. May I see some fists in the air? May I see some fists in the air? Just one of you is closing the fist. May I see fists in the air? Are you all ready? Okay. Set. Go! 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Thank you. Thank you. I do ask you, will you please stop? My malpractice insurance covers only 10 seconds of this exercise, so you have to stop after 10 seconds. And that was very interesting to see what we just saw here in the room, and I think our talk may become quite beneficial. A few words about me. I don't have the picture here right now, but where I come from, I'll put it in a second, maybe later on. I'm a member of the Israel Defense Force hostage negotiation team. Maybe you've heard of, Gilad Shalit, for example, or negotiating the return of the bodies of Avitan, Suwaid, and Abraham, working with the Hezbollah. Disengagement plan, Yerush, Itnafkut, you can choose to call it any way you want, but negotiating 8,200 of our brothers and sisters out of their houses, not such a great experience. Unfortunately, we had to experience like 3 weeks ago something quite similar. Amona, second time in Amona. And again, I'm not referring to is it okay politically, what is I'm just talking about engaging in a situation when you need to come to someone and say, we need to leave now. And mainly we need to leave now. And then maybe you've heard about the Fox journalist and the reporter that were kidnapped in Gaza. I was hired by Fox to release them. After 11 days they were back home. Olaf and Stephen. And there are some others. Maybe you heard about the taxi driver that was kidnapped to Ramallah, Eliyahu Goel. It took us, I think, 8 days, 10 days to bring him back home in one piece. And I won't mention all the times that we negotiated parts of brains and fingers and other parts of bodies of soldiers in Philadelphia. Path, if you remember that, and other things that we find ourselves negotiating from time to time. This is reality. This is what we are facing, and there's other examples. I think those are enough. But mainly where I come from is, as Daniel has mentioned, is the business world. Actually, the reason I was hired by the I was asked to join the IDF housing negotiation team was because of my business background. And I do not bring to the team anything about, what would be the right security approach or political or, Middle East, new Middle East, whatever. Usually my role is, why would they agree? Why even they will listen? Like, what's in it for them in order to even collaborate or communicate in this situation? What even that? And this is something that I think we should, let's see how you chose to approach a closed fist. Okay? So let's take just a few examples in this room, okay? By the way, we can all agree that this closed fist wasn't an authentic one, right? I mean, there's not yerivut, like there's no hostility between people. I hope, I don't know you that well. But in this room, and so just, somebody comes and asks you to pair up and one close the fist. By the way, on daily basis, do you meet closed fist? I'm not talking like closed fist as fist, but metaphorically speaking, like when there's lights are on, nobody home. Those situations that, no reception. Okay, so I'm talking about those situations. And is it easy or is it difficult or hard to actually identify that somebody is a closed fist? Easy, right? We don't need to be psychiatrists. We don't need to be choker klayot valev. Just realize that there's some issue going on. By the way, does those issues have to do with us? Over 90% of the situation that we meet or we find ourselves dealing with a closed fist has nothing to do, it's not but they came already, mukhanim ma'abayit, okay, they came already, like this. There were some people say that the children in Israel, they are buried already, born. Yeah. They are born with their fist closed, like usually babies are born, like this, but here they're born like this. So this is something that we are facing in our very, very challenging reality. So let's see, who did you pair up with? Who was your partner? She was a partner? Okay, who closed the fist? You did? Why did you?
You asked me to.
I didn't ask you, I said one of you. Why did you choose to close the fist?
Well, I thought we were going to do both ways, so I thought I'll go first.
Okay, so you'll go. You thought there'll be continuum to this exercise, so you'll go first. Okay, and is there any leverage about being first, or is there?
Yeah, I mean, is there leverage? I guess if I want to try something, I mean, it depends how I look at her, whether I look at her as a collaborator or as a competitor.
Okay. So you saw his closed fist. What did you choose to do?
Try to open with my hand, but also.
You try to open with your hand. Do you have any special method of opening with the fist with hand?
No.
So you just tried without having a clear method, but you approached anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And you said you did something else.
I tried to talk and tried to distract.
Distracting. Manipulate. See a bird. Open it. Did it work? Did you manage to open his fist?
Halfway.
Halfway. Halfway? Like 2.5 fingers?
This requires some negotiation.
He's not clear about that. Any fingers open?
Not so much.
Not so much. Okay.
Until the end. At the end, I opened my whole hand.
In the end.
At the 10th second.
Yes. Well, in the 10th second, we opened the whole hand. Who was your partner? Yes. Your son. Who closed the fist? Why did you? Oh, you think he's stronger? He is stronger? You think you're stronger? Okay. We will talk about strength in a second. So, because you're stronger, you close your fist. Okay, and then what did you choose to do?
I tickled him.
You tickled him. Do you tickle him on a daily basis? Oh, so you collaborate on this. Okay. Is it
Well, I
two?
know he's very ticklish. I don't do it on a daily basis, but I know.
You know he's very ticklish. So you have some data regarding that. Okay, and then you had your daughter, I understand?
Yes.
Okay, helping you. So 2 against 1.
Well, she did that on her own initiative.
Oh, this was her. She just took the opportunity. I mean, if she can, okay, break my brother's fingers, why not if they're able to do things? By the way, did you manage to open his fist? No.
I
Okay.
managed to get him to here.
Oh, up to him. That's like 20%. 20%. That's nice. Did you collaborate with the exercise? Yeah?
Yes.
Who closed the fist? Why did you?
Because he said, close your fist.
You said close her.
He said.
Yeah? Did you tell her to close her fist?
And I knew what he was going to try to do, tickle me, but I didn't open my fist.
Yeah? Do you know each other? No. Okay. So you knew where to tickle her? Okay. So, and did you open your fist? No. Okay. So he said to close your fist, so you collaborated with us, but then you said, okay. Okay? Okay, let's take one last word. Did you do the exercise? Yeah? Who closed the fist? Why did you? You were kind. And why did you ask him to close the fist? Strength involved. And do you think that he may be stronger than you? Of course. May I ask you a private question, please? Is it okay? You don't have to answer, but can I ask the question? When was the last time you gave birth? I'm talking about 10 fingers open. When did you... see, right now what we heard here is the exactly fiction of power, strength. Now you tell me, who's stronger, a newborn child or his parents?
Newborn child.
Who's stronger? The Israeli Defense Force or an 11-year-old suicide bomber with 5 kilograms of explosive on him or her with a detonator in her hand? Who's stronger at the scene? Who's stronger? The CEO of Tnuva or an interesting client who doesn't feel like paying 5.9 shekels for cottage cheese?
With a smartphone.
With a smartphone, yeah. With a computer at home, actually with a computer at home. Who's stronger? A parent who's really like harsh, you said, like really like on the education of his son, or the son who is in 6 years going to sign the check for the elderly house? Who's stronger? I mean, strength is such a fiction. And this is one of the most important things, like, like tochecha, some of you said, tochecha is, there is some strength in it, there is like, and this was a fiction. Actually, there's a lot of love in it. So when you talk about negotiation, especially with your children, where there's a lot of love, negotiating with your child, there is a lot of love there. Nevertheless, negotiating hostages or suicide bombers, or some people that may call terrorists, it's when you think it has to do with strength. Oh yeah, that's wrong. I don't know what would have happened if David would have seen Goliath and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, whoa." Okay. No, that has nothing to do with strength. At least not physical one. At least not the physical one. Nevertheless, you've closed your fist, and what did you try to do? What did you do? You asked him to open his hand. What exact words did you use, if you may? You open your hand. Were there any please there? No please. Okay, so you asked without a please. Oh, it was applied in the tone. So what did you do? What did you do then? Tighter. Okay.
Actually, you said maybe yesterday, not today.
Whoa.
Oh, so what was plan B?
I offered my pen.
You offered your pen. And then? You took it? With the other hand? No. So you took it? Anyone else offered something to his or her partner in this small exercise? What did you offer your friend? What? Candy. Yeah. Do you like candy? You know that she likes candy? So that was a gamble. So if she was suffering from sugar disease, you were trying to help kill her and she would have known that. Yeah. No. We will talk about this in a few minutes because this is going to be very practical. You know, the first thing we choose to do. By the way, do you like candy?
Yeah.
My dear friends, all over the world, all people in the world, all kind of cultures, all of them. When people are under stress, they say or do the thing that will work on them. Under stress, people do. Like if any person who tickled his partner is a person that if you would have tickled him, he would have opened his or her fist. All over the world, people under stress, they do or say the thing that if it would have been the other way around, it's actually the other way of posel bemumo posel. Okay, people immediately reveal what will work on them when they're under stress. Okay, so if when they offer something, they will offer something that if it would have been the other way around. Okay, so and did it work? So you took the candy?
I wanted the candy.
You wanted the candy. You wanted the candy.
Anyone bring John to
Okay. Yes. Did you offer anything?
I offered that we should massage her growing belly with her baby inside.
Ooh.
You would massage her.
No, that she should open her hands so that we could together massage.
Together massage. Do you know each other? Do you usually massage her body?
No, I didn't want to touch. She was touching her body, and my hands were on top of her hands.
Oh, so you. I see.
It's very
So-
innovative, Sherry.
Whoa, we understand here.
It's
Like,
gone beyond the regular rules.
yeah. No, the idea of somebody intervening somebody's other private space. Whoa.
Welcome to Israel.
I mean, it's a big question. You know, here in Israel, people, hi, how are you? All those that I'll rub your back, I'll do this and do that. Oh, yeah. And you know, in some cultures, and we should know in this room, you know, there are already something like over 120 or 150 cultures right now, okay? And you know, Israel is the biggest melting pot, right? Melting pot, like for cultures in the world, due to our history. And as we say, there is a Od Nimshechet Shayara, there is still coming, and not from last century, but from 7 months ago from Paris. And so different cultures, and some of them don't like so much when their bali is being, you know, or usually, by the way, when we intervene in somebody's private space, it's not only physically like, oh, which month are you at? Huh? So what did you do with the money last month? How did you, yes, or have you been together this weekend? What was the, like, was there some sex there during the week? What? I mean, people feel very free to ask you all kinds of questions, like, you know, I don't remember when I, you know, offered you those, you know, this kind of communication, and I just may be quite offended by it. But still, you know, what did I say? You know, I tickled you a little bit. What's to be like, well, I'm not kashe. Well, I don't like to be tickled. So, all of those issues, and I'm sure there are more examples here, and I thought maybe we should share here, how do you approach a closed fist? Okay, what is the rules of engagement? How do you engage with something which is a closed fist? And I'm talking about a situation where there is stress in, okay? And this closed fist doesn't have to be really like very, very tight. It can be only a little tight, but still it's a closed fist. It's like, and we say usually it's quite easy to recognize it, to see that there's some issue there. By the way, people that we know, our families, you know, over even through the hello, what's wrong, right? So I say hello on the phone, what's wrong? Or we go and everything's okay, right? Like people that we know immediately sense there is some change. People that we don't know, it may take a few more seconds to realize, I'm not sure that I should, you know, maybe we should leave them alone right now, or maybe I shouldn't say anything, right? Even if we don't know those people. So, and by the way, again, this is globally. We can sense. Part of our soft skills is to what we call, risk evaluation, right? Okay, maybe not just yet. So, in order to talk about how do we engage, I will ask to take you for a few seconds to the Scotland Yard, if I may. Why am I mentioning the Scotland Yard? Because after the siege of the Church of Nativity, if you remember that, after the suicide bomber in Netanya, it was in which? Park Hotel, yes, in Park Hotel. Defense Shield. At that time, Prime Minister Sharon decided to do another operation that we have from time to time in this part of the world, and we, the Israeli Defense Force, found themselves going into the Bethlehem, which you remember the shooting from Bethlehem on Gilo for many, for a few years actually it was going on, Bejala and so on. So we entered, the Israeli Defense Force entered in order to capture the people responsible to what was going on. And for different reasons, 220 Palestinians ran into the Church of Nativity, the second or first holiest place for the Christian. Now, can we bomb the Church of Nativity? Not a good idea, right? When 2/3 of the world are Christians, not such a great idea. And especially if we are responsible, to those holy places, we are not the ISIS that just destroy anything that they go by, and so we have to protect this. So we are invited, the house negotiation team of the IDF is invited us to come to Bethlehem to negotiate this thing. And why should we negotiate? Because with 207 of those people who ran inside, we had no issue whatsoever. They just were scared, they saw the tanks and they ran inside. It's fully human and acceptable. But 13 of those people inside were very much wanted. Abayat family, the people who had put the bomb inside the guitar who went to Sbao. So we know the resume, and 13 of them are very, very wanted. And not only that, they carried 2 bodies inside with them, and then they were wearing also, they were having some ammos, and they were holding the other 200 as human shield. And we were asked to negotiate that, and I won't go into the details of this negotiation, but actually we had an agreement after 5 interactions with them to end the siege, but what happened in this room with the closed fist made it take another, so it took 38 days altogether until but it didn't take like Gilad Shalit. With Gilad Shalit, you should know, we had an agreement to release Gilad Shalit after 3 days. You heard correctly, 3 days. What happened in this room happened also there. People didn't know the method. It took 5.5 years. So 38 days is not that bad, right? Nevertheless, after that was over, I found myself in the Scotland Yard headquarters in London, because all the intelligence globally, more or less, were curious. They wanted to take this as a concept case. The Church of Nativity, like it sounds like the beginning of a joke, right? A Jew, a Christian, and a Muslim, right? So it's and then in a world which become more and more fundamental, right? Fundamental, how do you say?
Fundamentalist.
Yeah, fundamentalist. And so I was there in order to talk about lesson learned. What can we learn from what happened in the Church of Nativity? And while I was meeting with this 2 in those positions, already not commanders, it's like managers, like very professional in the Scotland Yard hostage negotiation team. I realize, or I see a sign on the wall, the Global Royal Academy for Hostage Negotiation. Is it clear? The Global Royal Academy for Hostage Negotiation. I look on the sign, you said, like Shelet, right? Like sign. I look at this, and I look at those 2 managers, and I look at, and I said, why, what is this? La mama zeze. What is this? And my friends, where is the most experienced place in the world about hostage, standoffs, whatever. I mean, kidnaps. Where? Here, my dear friends, thousands of years. We have a book this thick. What's the name of this book? The Bible. There isn't even one page without somebody kidnapped or being, I mean, all this book is about kidnapping, standoffs, whatever. I mean, this guy comes with a stick, throws it on the floor, right? Becomes a snake. Manipulation is a negotiation, right? Let my people go. Let my people go, right? 7 times we went around Jericho, right? So that wasn't that a standoff? Like that was a Batsur, right? The siege of Jericho. Achav, didn't she hidden 2 people with her? It's not like this is.
She made a deal.
Yeah, she made a deal. I mean, Abraham, he refers to God and says, well, 50 is too much. Can we make it for 40? Maybe 30. 20 is good. Will you settle for 1? He's already negotiating with God about, and then what was the name? The one who sold the Ma'arat HaMachpelah? Ephron HaChiti.
Right.
So he comes to Abraham Avinu and says, 400 shekel kesef beni ubencha mahi. Like he really rips him off. 2 seconds before he offered that for free, right? So this is when we learned that for free is the most expensive thing, right? Once somebody wants to give something for free, then it's the most expensive thing. And I mean, we can talk about the hands, are the hands of Esav, and the call and the sound is the voice is the voice of Yaakov, and any page there is this, and we also have how many 3,000 people who got suicide in Masada, right? Something like this, right? Do you have something like this in England? I mean, like, come on. How dare you even write the Global Royal Academy? And I said, what? And he said, you're right. I mean, there is any other place in the world who has such an experience and knowledge. But, we English people, we send here, we send to the Middle East, lots of, even the Lawrence, men of Arabia, we send him to learn from the people in Pardes how to negotiate. But whenever he came, we saw people who it's my way or the highway. We couldn't find anything, like step by step, and that made us very frustrated. So we went back to England. And what we have in England, some Scotland, like Ireland, right? Like we have Ireland, right? A little bit some Ireland, and then Belfast, and not that big. But we took those few tens or hundreds of cases, and we analyzed them, and we did find the common denominator. And we did manage to find the method. How do you approach a closed fist? And I said, really? And I said, yes, really. And I said, may I? I said, well, be my guest. And now, for 2 minutes, try to imagine yourself as security people. Why do I ask this? Because this university in the Scotland Yard, it's a real one. And people from all over the world go to study there. It's not the English way of negotiating. It's global Royal Academy for Hostage Negotiation, a very serious one. They only can come from the security field. You cannot come just as a citizen or civil, so you have to come from like security background. So, and it's not hard in our reality to ask the people in this room to try and imagine yourself as people who deal with security. So the deal is like this. Each one of you in this room now is the security person for a 10-story building. Okay? You're responsible for the safety of people in this building. It's a commercial building. The time is now 6 o'clock in the afternoon, so it's very, very, very little populated. Most people already went home. You start your routine tour at the first floor out of 10 floors, okay? You have to know that for 25 years you've been doing this, so you're very experienced, anything with MOs, everything. This is what runs in your blood. Okay, security. So you start your routine tour in the first floor, going through a hallway, right? And you walk, you walk, and all of a sudden, a door which is supposed to be closed on your left, on the third door on your left, is half open. What do? You pull your gun.
Check it out.
You check it out, right? So you check it out. You don't just close the door, you just look inside, and what you see, it's a very small room. It's a 4 by 4 meters, and in the middle of the room there's this like big guy, like huge, like a side-by-side Amanas fridge, like big guy. You know, and this huge guy is holding a gun against this 10-year-old girl sitting on a chair. What we call, what do you do? Talk to me. What do you do? You're security people. You're like, you know, this is your job, the safety of these people. You just walk in, you do this, and you see that you're very you are very well equipped. You are the very fast, you know, like you are the most professional person in the area. Okay, with whatever has to do with MOs and so on. What do you do? What is it? Call me.
Has he seen you?
Yeah, he saw when you moved the door, there was eye contact, and he saw.
Talk to him.
You talk to him. What do you say? Don't shoot. Well, he says to you, I didn't think about that, but it's a great idea. I didn't think about shooting.
What do you want?
What do you want? What do you do, my dear friends? You're security people.
Hi.
Say hello. Hey! What do you do? What do you do? You ask for his wallet? You ask for his gun. Would you please give me your gun? Yes? Hello. My dear friend, you're security people. What do you do? And
you aim it at him
and so you just aim at him.
well, you tell him to drop it.
You shoot. Who said you shoot? You shoot. You shoot the guy. You shoot him between the eyes.
Find out about him and
My dear friends, my dear friends.
We're not that far.
Some people who walk into this room, this is a true exercise, I'm not joking, and this guy has a vest and a helmet, and this girl also has a vest and a helmet, and you walk inside and you have your own gun, but it's all paint bullets. And a lot of people go into the room and immediately like, and you see the helmet, and they're very professional. So he didn't even manage to blink, and they're already, and then they stop the exercise. The lady who's the responsible trainer for the Scotland Yard, she says, whoa, what's your name? Yeah? Uriel. Uriel, sorry. Uriel, well, thank you, it's a great shot, but maybe Uriel, instead of doing a hostage negotiation, maybe you should be bodyguard. The bodyguard does it, bodyguard. And Uriel says, why are you talking this? It was a clear shot, let's how you did. All his brains are over the walls, it's like really. And she says, well, this is great, but you have to understand, this is a father and a daughter which are not being, like they're training into a scene for a film. And you just killed her father. And for the fact that all her father brains were all over her when she was 10 years old, she won't make it till the age of 20 because she will commit suicide. But a great shot. Now let's take this too plastic kind of explanation and let's go to the first thing about we do not assume. Making an ass with you and me. The word assume. And the first thing on negotiating today or engaging in any situation in our world today, we do not assume. Exactly like when Tochecha comes in, we do not assume that we know why he did that. We have no clue what's actually going on here. It looks very threatening. Looks very dangerous. But my dear friend, if he wanted to shoot, he would have shot her. If she wanted to leave you, she would have left you already. If he would have want to cancel the deal, he would have canceled the deal. Don't flatter yourself. When people want to do something in the world today, they just do it. You walked in and what you see is something like, but he didn't pull the trigger yet. If he would have wanted to do this, he would have done it, and probably he would have been waited for you coming into this room. So in so many situations in our lives today, especially in our business situations, in our reality, if they would have want to kill us, they would have killed us. If they want to cancel the show, they would have canceled the show. If they want to throw us out of the apartment, they would have done that. If he would have wanted to sue us, he would have sued us. He didn't shoot yet. And this is when we come into action. You know, children are fighting with their parents, but they didn't leave home yet. I don't want to leave here anymore. This is. Okay, lots of frustration, but they didn't. You know, he didn't slam the door yet. Okay? So, the first thing that we should, the first rule is we do not assume. And you know, excuse me for the language, but assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups. Assumption is the mother of all fuck-ups, and I'm not joking. Okay? And by the way, those people here, those two people, if anyone is wrong here,
Nope.
from both of their perception, they are right.
Space or the actual.
This is what they see. And we are living in a world when data is changed within nanoseconds today. Within nanoseconds. And people see things differently. By the way, the same wall, the same thing, the same, you know, as we all know, one would say this is half full, this one says this is half empty, and they look at the same glass, right? And none of them is wrong. Now, if we already agree not to shoot, and by the way, why did I take this example? What do you shoot all day long? Each one of us here. What do we always shoot? We shoot words, emails, decisions, right? We shoot. Well, not such a great idea. Well, do you actually know what's going on? So what is the first thing we should do? What is the first thing that we asked to do in the Scotland Yard, by the way? A very professional people who are lots of experience, years of training and checking different audiences all around the globe. What is rule number one? Yeah?
Determine the facts. Try to find out what's going on.
My dear friend, I don't want anything which is, I need, what do you do? Okay? If you want to determine the facts, how do you do this?
Ask the person you're looking at what's going on.
You ask what's going on. Okay? Any other ideas? Eye contact. Yeah?
So say what's going on.
What's going on here?
Go start by observing.
My dear friends,
Stop and look.
Stop
What
and
are you
observe.
wanting?
what you'll do tonight at home, and if maybe it will be too late, so tomorrow morning, the first thing, rule number one, okay? The first thing that we do not assume, but the first rule, what you do, how do you engage is, would you please lower your gun? Now you tell me in this room why rule number one, doesn't matter how crazy the situation is, doesn't matter what you're dealing with, suicide bomber, somebody, would you please look at me? Would you please consider closing your computer and go to take a shower? Would you please stay at home after the kiddush and only then go with your friends? Is there any chance for you to stay longer so we can arrange for the meeting tomorrow morning? Would you please, whatever situation, they say, min awwal bawwal, the first thing that you do ever is you start with a request. And now you tell me, how come in the Scotland Yard, after almost 20 years of research, in the most craziest situations, they come up with, no matter how crazy it is, the first thing you do is you start with a request. Yeah, please tell me why is this. I mean, remember, those are not tree huggers. Okay? Okay? Those are very cynical people who have seen a lot of unfortunate situations in their lives, and still they say, the first thing you do is to start with a request. Yes, why?
Honor's choice and autonomy.
Honor, choice, and autonomy, yes. Yeah?
To get a thermometer on the situation. If it's really tense and you ask them, then they're going to respond with a really tense answer. If they're sort of very casual and flippant about it, then they'll give you a really casual and flippant answer.
So the reason is?
The reason is to figure out how the other person is feeling about the situation.
Okay.
What you're about to deal with.
Okay. How he or she is feeling about the situation, yes?
To touch on their humanity.
Touch on the humanity. When somebody says, would you please put your hands on the wheel, sir? You know this?
Mm-hmm.
Sir, would you please step aside?
Please, that's different.
Do they check about the humanity? So I'm talking about generally. Why do they say anywhere in the world, not
Take
only
control
in
of the
this?
situation.
Would you please start with a request? Yes? Why?
So that now you owe them something. They have a right to ask you to do something. So you're starting the back and forth. You're asking him to do something, then he has right to ask you to do something.
Oh, so you say we're creating mutuality here, some kind of mutuality.
Yeah.
back and forth thing. Yes, any other? Yeah?
Determine intent.
To what?
To determine the intent of the person.
Determine the intent of the person.
I mean, like in the situation you described,
Well,
the person
my dear
would
friends,
presumably lower the gun.
Great answers. Yes, you wanted to say something? To start a dialogue. Okay, do you think of that, would you please lower your gun, it would start a dialogue. Okay, or would you please return Gilad Shalit? That will start a dialogue.
Oh my God.
Yeah?
You appear to be actually taking charge, but whilst doing a non-threatening, it's non-threatening. The truth is you're asking the same question. You're not asking, you're saying, making the same statement, which you can make as a statement. You're asking, it's actually a very British thing if it's about something not. It's a very British thing to do. You could say exactly the same thing and tell him, you can say the same thing and ask, and
Okay, my dear friends, all of the answers here were, well, right. I mean, nothing is wrong when somebody is saying something he believes or she believes this is the right. Nevertheless, two things we should understand. One, never in my 30 years of experience in do or die situations, and this is where I chose to do my job is do or die situation. By the way, not necessarily people's lives. It can be a do or die for a deal, a project, relationship. It's a do or die situation. Okay? In 30 years, never ever a request deteriorates. How do you say, made things worse? Mm-hmm. Never. We don't even have one situation that said, what did you ask? We don't even have, doesn't matter from the Far East, where you take all the situations that we collect data from. Never a request made things worse. It first come to worse, it was lam, did nothing. It had no effect, but it didn't make things worse, which is important in high-risk situations and emergency situations. But the first and the most important reason, this is why it's important for us to understand, actually the reason that I'm here with you today is to share with you that it's the most inexpensive thing to do. And negotiation, it has nothing to do, not nothing to do, but it's not about win-win situation. It's only win-win if I win twice. Negotiation is about saving assets. And this is what actually, and also the tochecha is about saving assets. And a lot of things that we're actually learning, also in this Beit Midrash, it's about saving assets. And in the Scotland Yard, what they tell you is, you may have in your magazine only 9 bullets. Now, if it's the first floor, our 10 stories building, third room out of 36 rooms in this floor, and you already shot 1 bullet, there's no, point of, you won't be able to go beyond the 4th floor because you'll be out of bullets. And it's about saving your assets. And if you have shouted already on someone, and then on a very important meeting later on the day you lost your voice, you didn't use your assets in the right way. And if you gave 5% discount on a deal after 20 minutes of negotiating, you'll be bleeding on the deal after half an hour. Because it took only 5 minutes to lose already 5%, right? So negotiation is all about saving assets. By the way, what is the most precious asset of human being?
Time.
Time is a fiction. Life, once somebody is dead, doesn't have any more, the assets are not relevant anymore. Emotions. Emotions, my dear friends. Emotions. 3 Nobel Prizes were given, John Nash, Kalman Tversky, Said Uman. All 3 of them have proven the same thing, that the emotional is controlling the rational. And the most important, most expensive thing to fix, or the cost, what costs most is, I can ask forgiveness, but how would it really cost that somebody will really forgive? No price. No price for pride, for being hurt. Emotions. And we should be this is why we're talking about, negotiating with our children. Then we need to send them for 10 years for therapy, and it doesn't work, even with therapy. It's because we hurt their emotions. And we hurt people emotions, and this when it becomes really, really expensive. And negotiation is about saving assets. And you start with a request because you want to save assets. Because maybe, just maybe, it may work. By the way, in real situation, not a father and a child, real hostage situation, what are the chances, percentages from 0 to 100 that a request will work? Idea? Any idea? 40%. 0. If it's 0, why would we even, invest anything in that? My dear friends, you should know that between 5 to 10%, which is huge amount of percentage. And by the way, in the Middle East, are we closer to 5 or 10% when you make a request in hostage situation? 10. Ashan khatrak, because it has to do with the respect. When you ask somebody, when you make a request, subtext is I respect that you exist. And if we're talking about humanity, of course, when you talk about, the Arab culture, which is based on honor and respect. Ashan khatrak. Ya habibi, yumkin min fadlak. So this is something that we should understand, okay? And if you look at this, here we should understand why we should start with a request. And before I go to the next slide, just tell me please, my friend, what is preventing people from making a request? Why? I don't know how many people, I saw people are breaking other people here arms. Why didn't you just turn to your partner, which some of you know very well, and you choose to tickle her instead of just saying, would you please open your...
She did.
More fun to tickle. More fun to tickle.
She asked.
Yes?
She asked.
But what is the only price of a request?
Rejection.
Vanity.
Oh, no may be the result, but what is the price of making the request?
Time.
Ego, my dear friends. Do you know how you write negotiation? Yeah, let's say if we have the word negotiation. Right?
No ego.
E-G-O, right? Negotiation is the center. Ego is the center. It's a nice... By the way, anyone here knows where negotiation comes from? The word negotiation comes from? Just so you know, it comes from negotiare in Latin. And negotiare in Latin was invented by the Greek when they used to sail to Egypt. In Greek there is just some olives and rocks. If you need some cotton and you wanted some wheat and you want some, so they had to sail all the way to buy copper, whatever. Like the same reason that Abraham went to Egypt and Jacob went to Egypt, because Pitom and Ramses each were the center of the world. They were very, very, very rich, especially in the delta, right? In the Nile, delta of the Nile, and we know that, those pyramids and so on. So when they used to come to sail to Egypt, the Egyptian would rip them off. And the experience was very, very negative for them. Negotiation. It was a negative experience. Okay, later on, negotiare became the word trade. If you look it up, negotiare in Latin is trade, the word for trade. And from trade that people took negotiation. And this is one of the biggest mistakes in negotiation, because people think that negotiation has to do with trade, give or take, zero-sum game, which is like very, very little part of negotiation. This is why when Rabbi Daniel had mentioned shakla intaria in Aramaic, ancient Hebrew is sig vasiach. Okay, it's, I pick and throw, it's actually conversation, discussion. Sig vasiach, shakla intaria, has nothing to do with trade. I'm now negotiating with you. And it's a much wider space than just going to the market and bargaining over something. So we should understand the negotiation, and this ego thing has to do with almost every communication that we're communicating with someone. Now, what prevents us, from asking is, as we said, our ego. And why is our ego becomes relevant in a situation like this? Even in a situation that, there was no hostility between the people in this room, and still they try to open by force. Yeah, any idea?
Fear of failure.
The fear of failure. I want to share with you when does ego comes in. And after we do this, we can really go much faster through the method, because this is something which is very central to understand. Do you remember the disengagement plan? Yeah. So this engagement plan, the IDF had was prepared for 31 days, and it took only 4 days, if you remember. Very difficult situation, a lot of very hard pictures to see. Everybody that was there was crying. Doesn't matter what was your role in the situation. Nevertheless, after 4 days, it ended. Now, I don't know if because of God, nothing, or God had maybe nothing to do with this, but the person who had designed this engagement plan was Ariel Sharon, and after it was over, just this, he got stroke, and who did we get? Who replaced him? Do you remember? Olmert. My dear friends, did Olmert plan to be a prime minister? No, he was. No, it wasn't that. He was 34th. He was Makom 34, 34th position in the Likud. He just ended, destroying Jerusalem, and he went back to politics, and then he had moved from the Likud to Kadima, and he argued with Peres who would be the second in command, Memale Makom Rosh HaMemshala, and he won, which has nothing to do with us. I mean, this is strict politics. Why am I mentioning this? Because what has to do with us is that 50 people went into a building in Amona. Today we call it Amona first Amona, but then it was Amona. You know where's Amona, right? Next to Ofra. Where's Ofra? Next to Betel. Where's Betel? Next to Psagot. Where's Psagot? Inside Ramallah, right? So it's what we call Shtachim, right? Shtachim HaMuchzakim, HaMuchmatzim, HaKvushim, occupied, whatever. Who's running the occupied, so to say, or those Shtachim? Who's ruling that?
Defense Ministry.
The army, right? It's the army. It's ruled by the army, Israeli army. So when a situation in the Shtachim occurs, it becomes an army situation. This is the reason why I was with the Frankel family for 2.5 years 2.5 weeks after their son was kidnapped. I lived in the living room of Avi and Racheli Frankel, like other of my friends were with Mishpachat Ifrach and Mishpachat Shair, where there were 3 kids. And so, but that was a 16.5-year-old kid. He wasn't the soldier, so how come the Israel Defense Force Hashli Goshishtim is running this situation? Because it happened in the Shtachim. Whatever goes in the Shtachim immediately becomes a military situation. This is the rule in Israel. So this is why I find myself, living with Cheli and Abi for 2.5 weeks. And which was a very, very big challenge, knowing that I also have a 16.5-year-old daughter. She's now 19, he will remain 16.5. Naftali. I didn't mention maybe the most important thing to know about myself is that I'm married to Iris. My wife is Iris, and I'm the father of Mor Noya Odai Netanela. Morchuk, she's 29.5. Noya Nojush, she's 27. Odea, she's 22.5. And Netanela, whose nickname is Tutusha, just turned yesterday 19. Yes, and what is almost as important, or maybe even more important, is to know that for the last 4 years and 3 months, I'm the grandfather of Yoav, and for 2 years and 1 month, I am the grandfather of Avishai, Achi Yoav. Both of them, Bnei Tzuria. I guess you remember that. For some reason, they only mentioned Tzuria and Yael's mothers in the Bible. All the rest just was the father. The mother didn't do anything. So just the fathers should be mentioned. Nevertheless, so we were called to it's a military situation, and we were called for the this Amona thing, and only 50 people. We're not talking about 8,200 like in the with Natkut or the Gush Katif. There are 50 people in the building, and the first thing that we do and hostage, like our team is what we call risk evaluation. Okay? הערכת סיכון, not הערכת מצב. You know, situation evaluation, doing very smart people, you know, we do on the ground risk evaluation. So we call or we contact the Prime Minister. By the way, he was ממלא מקום. He wasn't the Prime Minister yet at that time. And we say, you know, in Arabic we say خليهم. You know what's خليهم? Let them be. We're talking about 50 people who they feel betrayed. They have huge need to demonstrate. You know, they need to ventilate. They're very scared that what happened in the Gaza Strip will happen also in the West Bank. They have no ammo. I mean, they're not armed in any way. They have nothing. I mean, they're just. And this building is not threatened by anyone, or this building is not dangerous. So, you know, let them be. I mean, put 5 or 6 jeeps of the border patrol, Magav, around the building, and seal the area. And 1, 2, 3 days they will
give us.
A rabbi will come talk to them, and that will it. It's not the first time, probably not the last time. We've seen those situations before, and his response was, "This afternoon, everybody is out. 420 people are severely injured, going into hospitals. 420. All the disengagement plan, not even one. Not even one. In the first time of Amona, 420 people. Policemen, brothers, sisters, and unbelievable. So when we see the situation, we go back and we say, what do you do with this? What's going on? I mean, no need for this. I don't know if you remember the pictures of policemen with horses, and it was, I think it was the closest that we were to Milchemet Achim in this country. This one was why. He said, "What are you doing?" And he says, his response was, and it's recorded, not by Shula Zaken. It's recorded, and it's recorded. He says, so they will know when I say something, I mean it. How do we call this? Ego. Now, we should remember that Ehud Olmert is not a stupid person, not at all. He's a very smart person, and he's not mean. So how do you explain this situation? How do you explain this, my dear friends? And this is something that I think is very important for us to understand. When you're not ready for the job, either to be a parent, or to be a businessman or a woman, or to be even a neighbor, when you're not ready for the job, when you're lacking the most basic but relevant methods, and you have no clue about the level or amount of responsibility, ego comes in. This is when ego comes in, and my dear friends, this is why it's so important. This is why we are investing so much time on talking about our ego for an example. My dear friends, can you imagine a 23-year-old lovely girl, young woman, meeting this 24-year-old young man, and they madly fall in love. This is my soulmate. And there's a lot of love and lust, and so they decide to move together. We don't get married so easily. So they decide to move together, to live together. So they I'm sorry about this. I know it's a chet, so I know you're not allowed to do this. But they just move to live together. They don't do anything else. So they just live together.
Be careful with your assumptions.
This is never the fact. In any case, so they take this 18 square meters, very small room, in front of the scene in Yafo, and this very romantic thing. And after 3 weeks, what happens? Right? This kind of, as we say in Hebrew, דיבור נגוע. Yes. And after another month, what happens? They're separated. You say, how come? How come? I saw them 2 months ago, and they were like lovey-dovey. What is this? What happened in those 2 months? My dear friends, they were not prepared. They were not ready to live together. You have to be prepared to live with someone in 18 square meters. And also they didn't have this method of saying, you know, you have this bad smell from your mouth, maybe you should brush your teeth and then we can kiss. Only kiss. On the cheeks. Or you can say that, you know, every time you put your wet towel on the bed, it's not. So I put a nail here. Could you please put your wet towel, you know, on this, hang it on the nail? They didn't have this method.
They didn't have tochacha.
Yeah, they didn't have tochacha. They didn't have this methods of. But the main thing they did not understand is what does it take once to take it. What does it mean to take responsibility over somebody else's heart? Now, my dear friends, after they're separated, when will they move again to live with someone? In Hebrew, we say pam b'af pam, because the scar. And when they moved together, they really meant. They weren't mean. They meant well, but the ego came in. And when our ego is hurt, whoa, we become very cautious later on. So when we talk about starting with a request, this is what actually they check in the Scotland Yard. Do you let your ego get over you as a person who wants to negotiate under a hostage situation? This is their test. So, my dear friends, always start with a request. And the reason that we always start with a request, as you see here, is actually because we would like to let our partner to feel that he gets to choose. And when you let somebody else to choose, the subtext is, I respect that you exist. We're talking about respect. You can choose. Now, I see that you're getting nervous. How much time do I need? It's an hour and 10 minutes, yes. An hour and 10 minutes from now,
Let's negotiate that.
And what I'm saying, my dear friend, is just, you know, and I want to tell you something. The reason that you know, some of you, I guess, had entered the United States. Anyone here went to the United States once in his life or life, right? You know, so when you enter the United States, once you get off the plane, there is this yellow line, right? And next to this yellow line, there's this sub-zero kind of person standing next to this. You know, I never know if it's a he or she because they both have beards, so I don't know. But then there is a sentence: "Would you please stand behind the yellow line?" By the way, I don't know about you guys here, but when he or she looks the other way, I always do like this. Once I do it like this. Because we are Israelis, nobody will tell us what to do. But now, seriously, can you pass the yellow line? Can you pass the yellow line? Can you cross it?
Of course you can.
No?
Of course you can.
You can. But you know there is a word comes from Iraq. You know the Iraqi word about consequences? Consequences. You heard about consequences? You know what's consequences? You know? Why don't you pass the yellow line? Because there are consequences. Right? What? Consequences? What's not clear about what I said? My dear friend, it's not Iraqi, I'm not joking. Just, Iraqi, they use the ka a lot. So it's a joke. Well, Anglo-Saxons don't understand this joke. So I will not use this joke anymore. Anyway, in any case, you know that in the Constitution, the United States Constitution, it's written, you know, Constitution is above the law. I don't know if I mentioned I am a lawyer. I've been a prosecutor for the District of Jerusalem. So I have some knowledge about legalization. And in the Constitution, American Constitution, it says that any person who represents the system, okay, anyone who has a official position must, by Constitution, above the law, you know, it's a, how do you say all the United States, like it's a federal thing. Sir, would you please put your hands on the wheel? Sir, would you please share with me your business? You have the right to remain silent. Everything that you may say may be used. And if it turns out that they didn't say this, they may get into a lot of trouble. And if they are wearing uniform, they have to repeat it at least twice because maybe in the first time the person, didn't even hear or was too anxious to understand what they were saying. Sir, I repeat, would you please step aside? Now, why is that? And why it's written in the Constitution? Because when you know what you're worth and you represent a system which believes that it's very strong, you have no problem with a request. A request is a sign of strength, my dear friends. It's a sign that I know what I'm worth, even as a father, as a mother, as a spouse, as a partner, as your neighbor. Would you please, would it be okay if you, move your car a little bit and park it a little bit to the side so we could, would it be okay? Is there any chance that you could help me here wash the stairs? Is it okay if you will, pay next month, your VAT bite, by the 5th of the month and won't need to wait until the 20th of the month? If you know what you're worth, I have no problem starting with a request. And what is the real reason that we start with a request is because we need to create some constructive communication. A request is almost the only thing that may allow constructive communication. Because the subtext of it was, I respect you, I allow you to choose, even if I know the position and you understand there are consequences, still, I allow you to choose, I let you choose. And this is something very interesting I just want to share with you here. Daniel had mentioned before that I do some work with the NYPD. So I got this coin from the NYPD after hostage negotiation team, after doing some work with them, and for 14 years. And what's interesting about this coin, and I don't know if you know about the hostage negotiation team, and the NYPD is the first hostage negotiation team ever in the world. They created the first professional team, hostage negotiation team, 1973 after 1972 in Munich, the terror attack, which was what people found out, police found out that it was tactic. Nobody knew how to, deal with this. So, and that was the first time ever in the world, the police and then army, so on and so on. So it's New York. So it's a very prestigious team, hostage negotiation team. And so when I got this, I asked Jay Cambria, who's their Lieutenant Jay Cambria. For the last 14 years, he's the commanding officer of the hostage negotiation. 14 years. By the way, before that, he was 16 years the commander of the SWAT team. And before that, he was a detective. Okay, so this guy, he has some experience. By the way, the average in New York is 3 cases a day. A day. 12.5 million people in the city. This is the amount of people every day. 8.5 million sleep in New York. 12.5. Every day there's another 4 million joining the other 8.5. And so the average is 3 cases a day. And I'm talking about a case. It's not somebody calling says, I think I'm going to do something to myself. This is not a case. A case is somebody holding a knife towards somebody, throw it in the subway. A case is somebody taking a gas tank, going with 3 kids into the living room in a 20-story building. This is a case, okay? Somebody standing on a bridge saying, I'm going to jump. This is, okay? 3 a day. So for 14 years, you may understand that he has some experience. He's considered the most experienced person in the world, Jack. His name is Gentle Jack. This is his nickname, Gentle Jack. And anyway, you can look him up. He's something. And he gave me this coin, and I told him, Jack, what is this? And said, this is like a small of their badge, like the sample of the badge. And it's written here, the hostage negotiation team, and in the middle usually the name of the detective, okay? And then on the bottom it says, talk to me. Because if you don't talk, no negotiation can take place. Talk to me, okay? If you want, you can later on come and look at it. It's nice. They walk their talk, as we say. So let's say we started with a request. let's say we allowed our partner to choose, we respect him or her, we know what we're worth, we know what they're worth, we recognize that, but nevertheless they chose to say, you know this? No. What happens when they say no? We ask, we allow them to choose. By the way, if a request, if you don't take into consideration that the answer may be no, so it wasn't a request, it was a manipulation. We must understand that when we make a request, we should take into, there's all kind of variety of answers that can be to our requests. Okay, it's not, okay, not necessarily. So let's say we asked and the answer is no. Okay, let's say this is, I'm a closed fist. You ask me, Michael, would you please open your hand or would you please open your fist? And I say no. What now?
Why?
Who said why? Okay. What's your name?
Larry.
Thanks to Larry, we will understand that why we will never ask why. Okay? My dear friends, listen. Why we never ask why. Okay? When people, no, this is, Larry said something which is very intuitive, and it's less professional. Usually what we do at home, as human beings, we act intuitively. What feels right to do? Well, if you want to become professional negotiators, we should understand the not consequences, but the amplification, right? Of what it is and why we should or we shouldn't do something which just feels like the right thing to do. Why? But why? Well, because I don't remember that I owe you any kind of explanation. Who do you think you are that you ask me why? You know why people react like this? Because under stress, their self-awareness is very, very limited. So themselves, when they're closed fists physically, they don't know why. But they will never admit this. So the answer will be, because! Leave me alone! Go to hell! Very, very dangerous. All the languages, by the way, all the languages, all the cultures, why, perché, porque, lesh, lama, doesn't matter which, you do not ask why under stress. Right? If I say to my wife, to my lovely wife, Iris, let's go to see this film. You know, we talked about, and I don't feel like it. Why? Oh, His Majesty just came home. Everybody to the film. Let's go to the film. Everybody to the film. Right? It doesn't happen in our family, but I saw this scene in a film once. That's where I got the idea. But this is an example. Nevertheless, my dear friend, we do not ask why. Okay? Irreversible damage to the relationship just through a very small word. When, by the way, you said your name again was? Larry. Yeah? So Larry was just curious, and it was okay. It's okay. But if you want to be curious, there's other ways. If you want to actually, understand what is going on with your partner, okay, why won't be a good idea, okay? And it may turn even humiliating, because when you made me realize that I myself don't know why, I feel humiliated and I hate you now. I really don't like it. And if I'm in a high position, then I like. So don't ask why. Okay, so we say, okay, we don't ask why. We understand. We won't ask why. But we want this thing, in 10 seconds, we want the fist to be open. We want, we're living in this crazy part of the world, right? And we all learn that doesn't matter what, at least we need to get going. This is home, right? Let's get going. We want to see some progress, right? So what do? We offer a pen, right? We offer a pen. We offer something. Oh, I'm glad that we're here today. My dear friends, let's say you want, to motivate someone. So I say, would you please open your fist? No. So I say, you know what? Let's offer him. I will offer him 10 shekels, right? By the way, I offer 10 shekels because if it would have been the other way around, I would have opened 5. I would settle for 5. So I feel very generous when I say, hey, take 10 shekels, open your fists. Open your fist. So in the Middle East, let's go to the really problematic situations, and then we'll go to the main street. When you say, hey, take 10 shekels, one answer may be, do I look like a hooker to you? Do you think you can buy me with your money? End of negotiation. End of negotiation. You Ashkenazi came with your money and you think it, end of negotiation. If we go to the 180 degrees, right? To the other edge, to the totally other, say, take 10 shekels, open your fist. That's it?
Exactly.
Only 10 shekels? And I promised myself I will not cry today. You're so, Avine Elavi, you know what's Avine Elavi? No? After all what I did to you, and this is what you offer me, this is what I want to do. End of negotiation. But usually what happens to people, Middle East, take 10 shekels, open your fist, the answer is, give me 20. Immediately, right? So you say to yourself, you know what, 20 shekels, 10 seconds, mission accomplished. Good or not good?
Doesn't end that way.
No, so you say, here, take 20. And they say, no, $20,000 per finger, not including VAT. This is not funny, my dear friends. This is something I would really appreciate if you will, and by the way, I see some of you, starting to dance in your chairs, so in order to create some expectations, I will appreciate it. And again, I told, it's always the danger with me coming and, you press play and I don't know when to stop. So I will end what I would like to share with you by 10 o'clock, which is 25 minutes from now.
Can
Okay.
I negotiate with you?
You can always try.
It's a request.
Can I make a request?
Of course, which is?
Can we do a little bit less?
Yes.
I promised
Okay, 2 minutes before that.
later than that.
Yeah.
I promised earlier, much earlier.
Okay, much earlier. My dear friends, okay, I will,
10.
okay. Okay, I will try to make it like 1 or 2 or something like this, okay?
It's very hard to negotiate with.
No, I don't want to create any inconvenience. So you leaving? That's it?
This is personal.
Okay. Yes. Okay. So, my dear friends, let's say somebody comes to me and say, "Hey, Michael, top, but top max $1,000 for your car." What do I know? What do I know for sure?
That's not the max.
Why do I know? What do I know for sure? 1,000 we have. Why? How do I know this? Because it said so. All over the world, all the people in the world, when they're under stress, they reveal the way they think. This is, by the way, the reason that if you go to therapy, family therapy, couple therapy, group therapy, whatever, the person who will hold the meeting will say, whenever stress goes up, the best thing to do is to, what you just said made me very upset. I prefer not to discuss it right now. Because if you will say what's going on in your head, and whatever it says they do, you're like your mother. Ooh. Then we go down to our car and then we sit in the car and say, why did I open my mouth? I don't know, it never happens to you in this room because you're very bright, but some people, when they're under stress, by the way, this is the reason why in cross-examination, what you do as a lawyer, you create stress. So then, so I killed her! Okay. People cannot, there's no filters. When people are under stress, there are no filters. This is when we become very, very sad and upset about on ourselves that we said, and words is one thing that there is no reverse. Words, it's only once, you cannot say, and even if I, as we say in Hebrew, even if I forgive, didn't mean that I forgot. Okay, so words, this is really, a bullet, once you shoot someone, you can take a bullet out and even make the scar go away. Words, you cannot take, it's always there. It will always remain. It will be part of our, relationship. It's there forever. Nevertheless, he said top 1,000 shekels. So he revealed the way that he's thinking about thousands of shekels and that he's under stress because this top means that he's really would like to have this car. So I negotiate and we come with 13,422. The same person who just said 1,000.
22.
Yes, 13,422. So then he comes finally and said, okay, here, take, here, okay, we have signed 13,422. And then say, you know what, actually, I'm not selling. What do you mean you're not selling? For 6 months, back and forth, I sold the kidney to bring you the money. What are they talking about? I went to the management, asked for some. Why am I not selling? Because to begin with, I didn't want to sell the car. And money, thanks God, is not an issue. But it was fun playing with you. My dear friends, people are playing with you. And this is something we have to understand. This is when we feel rejected. When the answer is no, people turn to create some motivation, right? Right? And then we reveal our way of thinking, because when we motivate, we offer something, we offer things that, that reveal that this is what we would like. And then it may be used against us. Then we will become very frustrated, and then our self-esteem will be damaged. And this is what I'm mostly worried about, people who, I'm not so good in negotiation. This is not for me. Actually, I should. No. It's just that you were so kind, and you were. Most of the people in this room, I can see. Sorry for don't get it the wrong way. Are pleasers. We would like others to be happy, so we offer things. We want them to be happy. And we have great ideas, by the way. But then they play with us. And then this is when it becomes really, really problematic. So we do not. Like, at home, I'll give you just one example because we have very little time, but let's say there's a 4 or 5-year-old kid, instead of eating dinner, he's playing with the food. I know it never happened to you, but maybe you've seen this on a film sometime, a kid, so he is playing with food, and his mother, what she really wants is this evening to be over. She already has this vision of at 9 o'clock drinking with his Nescafe and some quiet at home, So what she does is says, if you'll finish your dinner, you can get some bamba. Okay? Bamba. Now, by the way, this kid doesn't like bamba. Who likes bamba? His mother, right? If somebody would offer her bamba, she will take the dish, right? Because she didn't have enough bamba when she was a kid. Anyway, so from that moment, once she said, I'll give you bamba, what happens now? What he says? Bamba, 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 bamba. So after a while, the mother says, take bamba! Now, he doesn't like bamba. So he's playing with bamba now. He's like doing this, putting some bamba on his head. And so what happens now to the mother? She goes really upset. And she's saying and then all of a sudden, who comes into the room?
Father.
Why are you shouting at our child? See, if there was any chance to slipping spoons this evening, knives and forks, and only because this lady just offered bamba. Do not make any offers when under stress. Once under stress, it makes us really, really upset. So what do we do? What you ask to do is when you see some resistance, again, metaphorically speaking, a fist. So we start with a request in order to create some constructive communication. Is there a reason why you didn't answer my email? Was there any reason why you refused to go to visit my parents? Is there any reason why you choose to watch TV instead of coming into bed?
Isn't that the why we're supposed to
What?
avoid? Isn't that the why we're
Is there
supposed to
any
avoid?
what?
Isn't that the why that we're supposed to avoid?
When the answer is no, we're supposed to not to say why. When the answer is no, okay?
Couldn't ask it in the
When
first
I'm asking for some communication, it's part of the question. It's fine. But when you say, is there, or would you please, and it says no, and then you should not say why.
Yes.
Okay? So, because we're trying to create some constructive communication, and we ask, and or would you please come to bed, or would you please stay at home instead of going with your friends or whatever? And the answer is no. We do not ask why. We do not offer anything in exchange to create motivation. What will come out from your mouth is there anything that can be said or done that will allow you to open your fist? Your role as parents, as hostage negotiators, whatever, deal negotiators, is to move the muscle from here to here. You should make your partner's pupils move, not shake, but move. When pupils move is the only physical proof that somebody is thinking. And this is when we start, the brain is the only thing that creates something from nothing. Make the pupils move, my dear friends. Make the pupils move. Getting past no is any kind of version, by the way, version of this question. Anything that you may suggest that may work? Do you have any idea that how we can pass this, can go beyond this no? The issue is there. If there's something that we should understand, and I will close it very soon now, and this is something I got from my father, and it will be a great place to end this presentation, is my father used to tell me a penny for your thoughts. Penny for your thoughts. My father escaped Germany when he was 16. He was born in 1916, January 1st, 1916, in Hörlingen bei an der Donau. His name, when he was born, his given name was Peter Bernhard Wilhelm Weimer. That was my father, yes. And then he escaped to England, and he preferred to talk English less rather than to speak German. When he came in 1936 to Israel, he came to Palestine at the time. In 1941, he made a Yemenite lady, which is my mother. She's Yemenite. My mother is from Yemen, my father is from Germany. Both of them served in the Haganah. Both of them were fighters in the Haganah. My mother was 16, my father was 25, 9 years difference. I think it's quite challenging to actually try and prevent from a 16 years old Yemenite, once she sees a blonde with blue eyes, try to hold her. This can become a challenge. In 1941, the law didn't prevent yet anything, so it's. But they were only for 68 years together. Only 68 years they've been together. And as I mentioned before, that my father, 2 days from now, my father will be 8 years since he was, that he's physically left us, because I guess you all understood that he's in the room right now too. So he never left us. So what I've learned a lot from him is that negotiation occurs in our partner's head. The same with tochecha. Actually, tochecha is about, let me see a penny for your thought. Let me have a glimpse inside your head. And from there we can see if there's anything even we can negotiate about. It's only there. My dear friends, negotiation occurs in your partner's head. It doesn't matter if she's 5 years old, 15 or 50 or 500, it doesn't matter. But it's only there. In the business world, 15 years ago, negotiators or business, how to say, like salesmen and women, they used to go and say, and try to convince you, right, that what they have is exactly what you need. That this will make your life more happy, you'll be taller, you'll be whatever. This is what we have, this is what you need. For the last 10 years, all sales world is about, how do you say, zihui tzrachim? Identifying needs. It's negotiation today it's called the art of asking questions without creating resistance. And the more I understand about what it is that you need, by chance I have to like this in my car. See, it's a lucky day. Negotiation occurs in your partner's head. So we will close it here, just to understand that doesn't matter if it has to do with hostage with our children. By the way, I can tell you that negotiating with our children is much more difficult No, it's not funny because police situation, hostage situation.
It's finished.
First of all, it's always clear who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, right? And when you come as policeman or army, you have the authority. And it started and it's clear it's going to end. And by the way, everybody will be able to live with the result even if 15 people are dead. Because shit happens. And you can, that was the situation. We did our best. In business world, in family life, nobody is bad, nobody is good. It's like we are who we are. And it is never clear, right? When it starts, when it's going to end, because it never ends. It's always about the day after, right? And you will be really asked to pay. You will need to validate what it is that you chose to do and how that was the right thing to do, and so on, because it will seriously and severely affect your reputation as a parent, as a businessman, as a neighbor. So it's much more challenging to negotiate ongoing relationships than somebody who's kidnapping or whatever. So, and this is my argument with Jack and Bria for many years. So this is clear. You have authority. This is one thing. Let's see negotiating some business, some deals. So thank you for that. In Jerusalem, we are not allowed to say goodbye before we say 3 blessings. But before this, I will share with you 6 sentences. 6 sentences. That it's a present for me. I will not, this is just a present. So
No charge for this time.
No charge for this time. The first sentence will be, when you have nothing to say, do not express it with words.
For laughter?
When you have nothing to say, do not express it with words. In order to say the right thing on the right time, you have to be quite a lot silent. In order to say the right thing on the right time, you should be quite a lot silent. The third sentence is, you should always know what you're saying, but you shouldn't say all what you know. Okay, like we're talking about TMI, too much information. You should always know what you're saying, but you shouldn't say all what you know. The fourth question is,
To contradict?
Yeah. Silent is something which is very hard to contradict. Being silent is something that is very hard to contradict. The fifth question is, the fifth sentence is, it's better to be silent, to be asked to talk, rather than to talk and to be asked to be silent. The fifth one is, it's better to be silent and to be asked to talk, rather to talk and to be asked to be silent. And the sixth one, which I really, really like, when you argue with a stupid person, make sure he's not doing the same thing. And this is not about tochecha. 3 blessings, my dear friends. The first one, and if it's okay, I hope I will say it. It's okay that I will say it in Hebrew? Okay?
Go ahead.
הלוואי והתגשמו כל משאלות לבכם לטובה. הלוואי ותראו ברכה רבה בעמלכם ובעמלכם. And the third one is for all of us, והלוואי ונתבשר הרבה בשורות טובות.
Amen.
Thank you.
I want to thank everyone so much for coming, and thank Michael for giving us a little bit of his stories and his wisdom, and hopefully we'll take into account some of these things next time we're negotiating with our, hostage takers, or most importantly, the 3-year-olds and 6-year-olds or whoever it is that might be waiting for you at home right now, and that we should learn from this to develop deeper relationships, deeper love, deeper peace in this world. And toda rabba.